Alright, so we're diving into the Tesla trade today. Yeah, this is a banger of a trade. Called the bottom down there, 214, 215. I mean, it was nearly the direct bottom. Saw that 15-minute breaker, and that was the bottom. Haven't been back down since because it was also inside a weekly breaker, weekly volume balance. We'll dig more into the price action in a second, but these are some of my key tweets along the way. I just led the way. I even gave the breakdown up in here. I don't have every single tweet on here because it just jumbles up the screen, but we've hit 260 since now. It's just showing I've guided the whole way that picture's worth more than words. So here on Tesla, we're going to start on the higher time frame. So here on the monthly, you can see we're taking sell side liquidity. Got displacement back up on the monthly time frame, monthly fair value gap. So let's move down to the weekly. So looking at price action down here, so you can see we're rating sell side liquidity when it gets this displacement down and then gets this displacement right back up. So you can see here we have a fair value gap that overlaps inside part of this fair value gap. So you want to move the top down to the part where the fair value gaps overlap. That is a balanced price range. So when you move it out, you can see how well we held, and then that was the bottom there for us to continue higher. But that wasn't where I was interested to enter, because as you can see, I entered up here in this breaker. So why is this a breaker? And you hear me talk about breakers all the time. I mean, every day. I mean, it doesn't matter the time frame, they're forming everywhere, every time frame. So here you got your high, low, higher high, lower low, rating sell side liquidity, gets this lower high, a higher low, and then boom, that higher high above this high, above the swing high is what's important, because then there's your breaker, the retracement back down, enter, gone. Alright, so let's see here for Tesla. So you got your high, low, high. See the two green candles? We put in a high here. Boom, displacement down. That's what raised the sell side liquidity. People are short here because they see these big red days in a row. They're like, oh my god, Tesla's going to the dirt. Yeah, okay. Displace back up, and then here we get that lower high that I was talking about, and then boom, right there, the displacement above. I mean, how similar is this looking? Here's your retracement back down to the breaker, and then from there we went from 215 back up to 260. And I mean, from wherever we entered in that week, 2 full weeks after is how long it took to go that far. So there's the structure of the breaker. I go over it all the time. It repeats nearly every day. I talk about a breaker setup in the Discord nearly every day. It's personally my favorite PD array. So but here's another thing to look at with breakers. Put the magnet back on. This was actually an order block before we displaced above it. Breakers are just failed order blocks, because you can see here this was an order block. We got the rejection, but then we hit that BPR, and that's what caused us to just go ballistic and then displace above the high. So there's that. So then also we have these 3 relatively equal highs up here on Tesla. I don't believe this is a real top here. I think we're gonna raid this sell side or this buy side liquidity. It looks too good of resistance. So yeah, moving down to so I've had people ask me, they're like, where do you enter at inside the breaker? Like the high, the midpoint, the low, where do you try to enter? And well, it just depends, because if there's any other PD arrays inside of it, or even going on to the lower time frames, you look for other PD arrays where you wouldn't expect us to go lower. So here, even staying on the weekly, there's a weekly volume imbalance here. This area between these 2 candles, it's a volume imbalance. Put that on your chart, drag it out, and you can see how well we held. So then going on to the daily, I mean, you can see how well that daily candle held the weekly volume imbalance, and then we just gapped up the next day, and then just continued up to 240 in 2 days from 215. So this was also this previous daily order block I was looking at, because whenever we had this daily close below it here, that's whenever I said I'd expect this to continue down to 229, the top of this weekly breaker. And then you can see that next day it had that wick up, retest, and boom, continued lower, hit it, I called bottom, and gone. So now let's move down to the lower time frames, because we're rating the sell side liquidity, higher time frame sell side liquidity. So this is when my high probability trade checklist. So weekly bias, we're bullish. We're looking for higher prices. So a liquidity sweep. Well, we're rating sell side liquidity. Higher time frame PD array, weekly breaker, weekly volume imbalance. 1 to 4 hour order flow aligning with weekly bias. So this is the only thing that wouldn't be checked off yet, because we were calling a bottom. So that's for whenever you're looking for continuation plays. So in here, order flow had shifted bullish, and you could have been looking to buy these dips, like onto the 1 hour balance price range that was right on top of the weekly breaker. That was a good spot to enter, because the 1 to 4 hour order flow had shifted bullish by then. But down here we hadn't yet. I was calling a bottom, that's why. But 5 to 15 minute displacement back up, and that's what I was talking about here, this breaker image, because I tweeted with Tesla. I said, look familiar, and here it was. I mean, you got your high, low, right in the sell side liquidity. Then it comes back up, comes back down, retests the bottom of the weekly volume imbalance, and then boom, displacement up above this high, fair value gap. It retraces back down, hits this fair value gap in the breaker, gone. That's why I said look familiar. I mean, the breaker forms everywhere. You just got to put it into factor for rating sell side liquidity or not for a bullish breaker, because I mean, if you see a bullish breaker form up here, like up here at the highs, so like here when we're rating these highs, if you see a bullish breaker like in here, you're not going to want to take that after we're rating buy side liquidity already. Like, you got to study that, when the times they'll fail and when they work, what time of day, everything. So but yeah, that's how I called the bottom in there. There was that 15-minute breaker. We're inside the weekly volume imbalance and the weekly breaker, so I didn't expect it to go lower than there once we formed that breaker. And then from there, we were very explosive to the upside. So here, moving on to the 1 hour, you can see whenever we got the close above here, that's whenever the weekly breaker, that's whenever I was expecting this to continue up to these equal highs that were here. 1, 2, 3 equal highs. Hit them. And then we got the retracement back down, which gave us the retest of the weekly breaker, and boom, shot back up, rated buy side liquidity again, came down. But then here, this time, we have a 1 hour balance price range in discount. Take off the 20 and 30%. So from high to low, here's the 50%. So down here, this is in deep discount. So you can see 1 hour fair value gap, inside 1 hour fair value gap, balance price range, we held that. And also notice it's right on top of the weekly breaker, and it touches the weekly breaker again, and then boom, straight up. We hit buy side liquidity again here. So then here, moving on to this smaller time frame, 5 minute, I had tweeted this. I said, I don't believe this is a real top, whenever we formed it and started moving down like explosively, very aggressively. Because I mean, we fell from 244 to 239 in just 2 5-minute candles. So we rated the high. We left 3 relative equal highs here. So people felt like good resistance formed here. They're going short, putting their stop loss above this high. And then we're looking to target them highs because we're not trying to trade support and resistance. So here you can see we come down and shot straight back up through them highs, because here whenever they're moving it aggressively down like this, they are just shaking people out their longs and flipping people short, so then they can keep screwing more people, and then they send it higher straight up into them 252 equal highs that I was calling for. Because whenever we held this 1 hour BPR, I tweeted in here, somewhere in here, I said I expected it to continue up to these 252 equal highs. Don't believe me, go look at the tweet, I don't care. And then you can see we hit them. I mean, I'm still expecting upside to continue. I think these highs look too good. I'd like to see us continue up into 270-ish. And then we could talk about more upside above there, but for now I'm just looking for there. But we'll see if we want to hold this previous daily order block area, because if we give up 240 to 241, we can start moving down more, and I'll look to scale out some more of my calls. But so yeah, going back over here to the checklist, multiple price targets. Always scale on the way to your main price target. 240 equal highs, 252 equal highs, 270 equal highs. We're scaling on the way up, because now, even if this were to come all the way down here and stop the rest of mine at break even, I don't give a fuck. I've already been scaling off contracts on the way up. I've hit 200%. The high, we hit 250% on my December contracts. I didn't scale off that high. I scaled off when we were first hitting the equal highs here at, it was about 200 and I think it was 6%, but the high was 250, 260%, but I'm still looking for more. But we'll see. I mean, if we don't and come back down, I don't give a fuck who says anything to me about, oh, we didn't continue as high as you wanted. Yeah, cool. I don't care. But yeah, that's all I'm saying. Who cares? If you're taking your profits, the people that are saying, oh, you didn't hold all the way to your profits or your price target, because they're the ones probably entering calls up here, because then they're seeing my tweets and they're like, oh yeah, let's enter calls, we're going all the way up there, right up here. But that's nearly everything to how, oh wait, there's one more factor in this that I didn't go over. Up here at 300, yeah, right here at 300, earnings was the high. Earnings was the high. I tell you all this. When everyone is expecting the same thing, things do not end well. That's why when people were asking me about earnings up here, yeah, we had them equal highs, but I didn't expect it to draw to that, because everyone was bullish. Everyone was expecting 300 plus on Tesla up there at earnings, and I said that I wasn't going to play calls or nothing, because when everyone's expecting the same thing, things don't end well. And look at that, we dropped all the way back down to 215, and then by the time there, when we're rating the sell side liquidity, that's when they've shook people out that were long, and they flipped a bunch of people short, and then they're just taking it right back up to screw the most people possible. You got to play the majority into your analysis. That's what I always say. Fade the majority.